So, welcome to another episode of Wellness Begins Within. I am so excited to have my dear mentor, teacher, and wise wizard that she is here for what I hope will be an awesome episode. So, thank you so much for joining me, Andrea.
You are so
Jasmine.
welcome. I'm so excited to be here, my little jazz hands.
I love it. I love it.
This is I have been looking forward to this for weeks. So I know
Me
we have a
too.
lot to talk about.
Me too. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about, and I just want to read your bio for those who may or may not be familiar with you yet, just so they can have a little bit more of a taste of who you are behind the curtain. See what I did there? So, Andrea Donnelly is a shamanic healer, an intuitive mentor, and the creator of the future medicine modality, which she used to heal herself from previously disabling nerve pain and a great deal of complex intergenerational trauma. Now she certifies others in future medicine and she shares it with people around the world looking to reclaim their sovereignty and their power as creative beings. She has a degree from Wesleyan University and 24 years of experience as a healer. That's hard to believe. Her mentorship process combines her background in finance and entrepreneurship, as well as her one of a kind intuitive gifts and her spiritual IQ to give her clients into their highest and desired timeline and new levels of abundance and joy. Her work has been featured in publications like Medium, Yahoo, Bustle, and Respin, and you can connect with her at We Are Here to remember.com, on Instagram at Sea Witchery, and on YouTube at birdtv.com. And I will include all of those links, obviously. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. The people listening don't necessarily know this, but I love you so much. I love connecting with you in all the ways. And for those of you listening, Ashley went through my certification program. So she is well versed in the world of future medicine, which is incredible. And yeah, I'm just so happy to be here. I feel like we have like a million different things that we could talk about, but I'll zip it up and let you ask me
Well, we
questions.
definitely will be talking about future medicine. I can't wait to talk about that. But I want to kind of allude to something that a lot of people are thinking about, struggling with, wondering about. And they're at this point in their lives where they might feel like their lives are both simultaneously falling apart and at the same time they're starting to wake up. So, what do you see happening right now below or even above all of the chaos that's going on in the world right now as people approach this idea of the Great Awakening?
One of my friends used to always say, you do not want anyone to tell you, may you live in interesting times. And because that is like the old, and here we are. It's like the most interesting time that one could possibly have incarnated in this realm, whatever this realm is, whatever's going on down here on this wacky blue marble. So this is a fascinating moment in the human experience because this was, as you well know, and many of your listeners are likely familiar with, but this was prophesized to be a time where we would all wake up and remember that this false matrix in which we find ourselves is a hot con, is operating so out of integrity in so many ways that I could literally talk about it for the rest of my life and I could probably not stop and do nothing but that because it has infected every system, every walk of life, our politics, religion, spirituality, culture, art, entertainment, architecture, design, stewardship, or lack thereof. Like there's no system that exists anywhere on earth that is in integrity with our hearts, with our divine truth, with the energy of true creator. And this is the moment where all of those, you can think of them as veils of forgetting. You can think of them as like hooks and cords and, sort of like the draining of resources, because that's to me the big irony and part of why, to directly answer your question about what the F is happening right now. Part of what is happening and why everything feels so chaotic. There are sort of like, I think, a couple of reasons for this, and it requires a lot of like nuanced, big thinking to be. So just stick with me. And I'm going to try to make this as concise as possible. But each of us is a creator being. We have phenomenal power that is beyond what most people could ever conceive as possible. We are always, I don't love the word manifesting for a variety of reasons, but it articulates what I think is our truth, which is that we are co-creators with the divine. And this false matrix has essentially hooked into all of us. People like you and I, people like your listeners, understand we have a level of capacity that is beyond what we're told. But most people don't understand that essentially they're being used to create this horrific, endless cycle of trauma, drama, chaos, pain, endless war, suffering for, not just us, but for the plants and the animals and the elements. Like all of our resources are essentially, we're batteries that are being used to create absolute MFing BS. And this is the point at which we say, I'm not participating in this anymore. I'm going to use my co-creative power to create something beautiful and essentially retune my own self and the world in which I move and live back to an energy of cosmic justice, of stewardship, where every heart and hand is like taken care of, because all of this is absolute nonsense. None of that, it doesn't need to be like this, but we've been put through so much in terms of like spell casting and interference and misinformation and an endless cycle of like
Frequent.
misinformation through the news and frequency attacks and so much that most people are just exhausted at this point, right? They're exhausted because, to what you had said earlier, like we're not just moving through the dissolution of an overarching planetary system, but we are also having to go inward deeply and untangle ourselves from these karmic loops, from ancestral trauma, really face things and heal. And I think that's why it feels so intense right now. You like it's one, like that energy of just like one thing after another, one psyop after another on the world stage to continually distract us from being able to say, wait a minute, like we actually hold all the power. We don't need you. You need us. Like this could all literally be game over from my perspective in like a day if we all just said, I'm not doing this anymore. And we're moving in that direction, right? But it is intense because it also is requiring each of us from an individual perspective to say, I am so much more than what I've been told. And the ways that so many people suffer from, chronic illness and stress and, like so, a lot of really intense, like no matter how good people's life is on this planet, we still experience grief and loss. And these things go back through past lives and through our ancestral experience through epigenetic inheritance. And so it's just like basically when I look at people, I see a few things. I see what I'll call like people's cosmic truth and like pure heart and soul and capacity to create, like the gifts that they have carried through this and all lifetimes. And then I can also see what I call an energetic bag of rocks. That bag of rocks is like, so there's a lot that is essentially, making it so that people have a lot going on. And the more you can go inward, face the unhealed parts of yourself and remember what a glorious, miraculous, beautiful light you are. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, right? There were those memes a few years ago in 2020 that like I would laugh every time where it would show, juxtapose like a woman sitting beautifully in the middle of a field with butterflies around her. And it was like, this is what people think the awakening is like. And then, someone like next to a dumpster fire who's like hair is frizzled and they're like having a real fucking, there's like a cigarette hanging out of their mouth. And it's like, this is what the awakening is actually like. And there is an element, it's both. It's both the most beautiful thing that you can experience to reclaim your sovereignty and remember who you are, to heal the unintegrated parts of you. And it's going to knock you on your behind. And the thing is it requires, I think, all of us to just be like, okay, just here I am again, dusting myself off, getting back up again, because like stuff happens. We've all and part of that is, I think a large reason for that is both like the matrix wants to keep all of us very distracted from the reclamation of our power. And we all also have a lot of things that we've experienced in both this and past lifetimes that we need to face and integrate and heal and release. And that is also why I, do the work that I do. I know it's why you do the work that you do for people, right? Like there are some of us who have been called very deeply to help guide our, individuals and our communities through this window of time with as much grace as humanly fucking possible. It's not always going to be pretty, but the more you can just like integrate who you are and find good guides to be able to like help you clear, like that's literally why I created future medicine, was to help clear this energy from people's field and really help to like restabilize you in what I think of as like the field of miracles or the frequency of miracles, which is our actual truth underneath all the nonsense.
Two things really stand out from that. And I really see, as you said, like the Great Awakening as this physical, biological process, obviously an intuitive process, a spiritual process, and then so much emotional as well. And so now, as people are getting to the point where they are activating their own intuitive gifts, I guess the challenge is really understanding like what is innate and what do I need to learn, right? So what is intuition? How does that come through for me? How does that, how do I even perceive that information? And the second thing that I see as being really important based on what you said is that so many people also are having to realize that, they need to learn energy healing for themselves. Like if they are completely brand new to this, there is no world in which they can't, or there's no world in which they are not in a good position to steward their own healing. Because it's one thing to, we all do it, right? We all have opportunities where we can work with practitioners and support in that way. But how important is it for people to really do their own energy work? Because it feels like
Yeah.
it's a daily requirement right now.
I I am always working on myself, frankly. Like there's rarely a minute in a day where I'm not doing something,
Yeah.
which may sound ludicrous to people listening to me, like, how is that even sustainable? But there's so much happening. Right. There's so much. And I start my morning by I clear myself, I reground, I do a future medicine treatment for myself. I work on, I work on my home every day, work on the land on which I live. I do a lot. And, in the evening, I like end every day by doing something similar. And I do a lot of I've created a lot of very specific processes over the years to help to do a lot of different things, right? Activate, clear, realign, reconnect myself. Like there are a lot of things. I've spent the almost 25 years at this point, tinkering, playing around, really, really going as deep into um, how to best support myself and others as possible. And it's funny because I have a friend from high school who said, she at one point when we had reconnected and she found out what I was doing, and she was like, you were, and I listen, I'm just quoting someone else, okay, you guys, I'm not necessarily, I'm also a dummy. Okay. But she was like, you were always the smartest guy in the room. So like, of course you're the one who's going to figure out how to crack
Mm.
the matrix. And when I think what she means by that is like I was always someone who had both a very high level of awareness about how hinky things were from going back to like early childhood. Like I knew that I was here to do something and that I was here to remember things and really create something for the collective to be able to really help, to really be of like true service. And yeah, there's nothing I love more than this. Like I think people do really need to learn how to do these things for themselves because it fortifies you. It helps keep you stabilized so that when you're in a time of abundance and beautiful like pleasure and joy and opportunity, it helps to build. If you have an energetic practice, it helps you to be able to build on that and create more miracles. And simultaneously, when you're in those moments of the shit has hit the effing fan, it helps to just reground you and helps you to be able to tune into solutions, a
Mhm.
path forward that is as easy as possible. Right? Like it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be perfect, but the other thing that I think when I think about that too is that there's also, we've been taught like every system that exists to look outside ourselves for
Mhm.
everything,
Mhm.
everything, right? And it's not to dismiss the fact that there are teachers and guides and elders who like we can also really leverage to be able to help us get to that point. But like one of the things that from my perspective that I was always very clear about as I was creating future medicine was that, and one of the things that I think really makes it stand out as a modality, and you've shared, I know you've reflected things where people have shared this with you too. It's powerful in a way that is beyond what most people have ever experienced with energy medicine because it literally built it. I created it so that it works with the gifts you have,
Mhm.
as opposed to something like Reiki or other modalities that are an energy that's external to you. This process that I have created is about tapping into what I know are profound gifts that we each have, right? You were talking about how we all have intuition and psychic gifts, and those things also really help us the more we can engage in a process that helps us to realign and essentially hear and trust those things are also they're like the ultimate power move right now. They're a true golden compass as the world is like fucking imploding around us,
Yeah.
right? To have like a cosmic voice in our own heart, which is like the truth beyond this realm, our truth, right? Our connection to true creator, to God, to the divine, to have that as like loud and powerful a voice, a compass, a point from which we move is what I think everyone needs to do. And I think if everyone did that also, to reference what I was saying earlier, I think if we all said, I'm going to really engage in a level of self mastery. I'm going to learn how to do energy work. I'm going to work with the flowers. I'm going to work with the land. I'm going to work with, finding ways to really create something beautiful as much as I possibly can for myself, for my kids, for, my community, the land on which I live, really like doing that work. That is how it would be what I was saying earlier, that energy of game over.
Yeah.
Like the matrix cannot sustain itself as we realize that we hold this enormous, unstoppable well of divine potential inside our hearts, our minds, and our bodies.
Wow. And I think, like, as you say, it's almost a two-part process, right? So we learn we have these intuitive gifts, we learn we have psychic gifts, we learn to trust those. And by extension, by trusting our intuition, we start trusting ourselves more. And I feel like that's, as you say, the whole system, all of the matrix is really designed in a way to make us doubt ourselves and to not, to require validation from some external authority about who we are and what we're meant to do right now.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And it's time for something different.
Yes.
Um, and it's interesting because I was just at my 25-year college reunion this past weekend, and there were things I loved. I don't want to completely dismiss the experience, but it was there were a lot of ways where it was really hard for me to be in college because there was so much like theoretical absorption of information and such like from my perspective, especially at the time, like I was in college in the late 90s and the early aughts, and this wasn't just about the place that I was studying. This was just something across the board, but there was a really big lack, I think, of actually integrating experiential, like what are you going to do with all of this theoretical information? To me, that was also something that I was like always very passionate about, and I could see as a massive failing in the educational landscape was that like people were not actually learning how to use any of the any of the things for the most part that people are learning. You spend all these years in school and then you don't actually start doing anything until you get a job, and then but like it just, to me, none of that makes sense. And it speaks to what, when I see like where we need to go, this energy of not just learning things but like figuring out how you actually embody the wisdom that you possess so that you're taking practical action to create a more beautiful vision for yourself, for your family, for your community, because I feel like that's where a lot of the problems from my perspective that I see in the educational system, and why like I'm so passionate. I love teaching because like I'm really into helping people see ways that they can actually use the things I'm teaching in a way that works for them. Right. It's not a cookie cutter approach. Like I've had all kinds of people go through the programs that I teach, and I have helped every person, no matter what they do, like the range of different things that people do. Some people are entrepreneurs, but like I have helped people across the map in terms of like the skill set that they bring, and helping them find ways, right, to be able to leverage the things that I'm teaching and apply it to their life in the most like dynamic way possible. And I know that's one of the things you're really passionate about too, right? Is like actually working with an individual to be able to say, this is what I see as your like sweet, beautiful gifts. And like, what can we do to help you trust them more, to help you like be able to know that these things that you possess in your heart and your body and your creative vision, those little, there's this is like a I'm preemptively laughing because this is such a silly thing to share, but I think about this often. There was an Adam Sandler movie many years ago where he busts into a boardroom and he's like trying to stop the dissolution of a company getting broken up for like pieces and profit. And he looks at everybody and he's like, "Is this what you wanted to do when you were little? Like, come on.
Love
Like,
it.
what did you want to do when you were little?" And when I was little, I wanted to, I mean, I was albeit a unusual kid who had a sense of remembrance that I don't know everyone has, but I always wanted to help. I wanted to help people. I wanted to help the land. I loved art and creativity, and I always was like hyper psychic. And I knew that those things were like things that were special about me.
Hmm.
And in a lot of ways, right? Like I just found a way to take the things that I loved as a tiny person and like turn them into something beautiful. And I think a lot of us, if we think back to like what was it that really lit us up in childhood, where are we now? It's not practical for everyone to like quit their job and like I appreciate all of that, but the more you can engage in this process of remembering who you are versus what society told you versus what your family expectations were, like all of that sort of outside external noise, the more I think the happier people become, the healthier people become, right? Like your physical body changes, everything about you shifts the more you start to engage in this work. Because the things that don't work, whether it takes time, right? Sometimes like it requires us to hold a vision for a longer amount of time than perhaps feels comfortable. But the more we can engage in that and start to like reset and show up every day, even, and this is a really important thing that I want everyone to really sock in their pocket or thinking cap or whatever. Sometimes it takes a long time to create things in this realm, right? I think a lot of people like give up on their dreams, give up on healing, give up on things because they're like, it's not working. And I don't mean that to be like making fun of, like, I'm not making fun of anyone in that, it's not working.
We
It's
all
just,
want results.
we want, and sometimes the miracles flow through so fucking fast, right? Like sometimes they really are overnight. And other times you have to keep holding the vision and you're like, oh, I've been holding the vision for this for like
You're like, I'm ready for the next vision, but I gotta.
but I gotta keep working on this one. And I think that that's also just like part, being able to like engage in a level of emotional and spiritual maturity and say, all right, like this hasn't happened yet, but I know that this is something that it is in my heart. And I call that like the whispers of your heart. The whispers of your heart are going to keep on calling you forward, no matter how long it takes you to call them into life. And I think that is like really one of the most powerful things any of us can do right now is to say, how do I get down to business, as it were, and make this happen for myself, even if it takes 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Like, what can I do because we all have to start somewhere. And the sooner you start doing this art, this arc, this process of remembering who you are, self-mastery, like the faster things you're going to start to see the things shift.
And so, of course, you've alluded to a couple times, but a prime modality that you work with is what you call future medicine, which you have created. And as you mentioned, I was certified in this beautiful, and I like to say very flexible modality because I use it in all kinds of different ways. And I have hopefully going to be a ton of YouTube videos on this as well, where I am walking through people like actual experiential future medicine meditations, activations on all kinds of different topics. I think I have a handful right now. But tell us about future medicine. You did allude to one of the things that make it different from other energy medicine modalities, which is the fact that it is so flexible. But how do you kind of perceive future medicine? What do you want to share about future medicine that maybe you haven't shared with anyone else before?
You know, future medicine is like such a beautiful, like, for a long time, it was, for a passion project in a lot of ways where I was working very deeply on myself. Just as like a little backstory, right? So I had always, from the time I mentioned this, I had always been very psychic. I come from a family of very psychic people. I had both, like, there was an interest, I would say, in the house I grew up in, the metaphysical and the spiritual. My mom had like the Louise Hay books on tape, right? It was it's the 80s and 90s.
I still
Like
do.
like these things were like in the landscape of my home, so they were not like super outside myself, but I was always very interested in the metaphysical, the spiritual. Like, I had incredible experiences going back to childhood of being able to like communicate with animals and plants and like having a relationship. Like, everyone in my house, this was before caller ID. We always knew who was on the other end of the phone, and like mostly we were all always right. Like, so there was a level of spiritual and psychic acumen that I just like sort of understood to be part of what was possible. I knew that other people were not necessarily engaging in that wisdom, but in terms of what I was seeing in front of me, I knew it from my practical lived experience. And there was also a lot of really complex stuff that I experienced from childhood on. My dad passed away when I was little. A lot of very intense things happened to me from like a familial and ancestral trauma perspective. And so it really, it was always there in the back of my mind. And I could always see in the world around me that people had these really heavy energetic weights that they were carrying. And I was always very interested in essentially creating something that would help to mitigate that would help to make things better for the people, the good people of this realm. And I had a crazy experience as, I had a lot of really intense experiences, but like I remember, and this has to do, I promise, I can be a real, I am a verbose motherfucker, but I promise I'm going somewhere with this about like with more information about future medicine. But when I was maybe 5, I was watching a Sesame Street movie called Don't Eat the Pictures. They get trapped in the Met. I have had like cognitive dissonance as I like going back years of being like, did that really happen? Is that a real movie? It is. You can go on the Google and confirm. Don't eat the pictures. The Muppets get trapped in the Met. They end up meeting the spirit of an Egyptian boy who's been trapped on Earth for a couple thousand years. And it's very deep and like super metaphysical. And they end up essentially talking to, guardians, cosmic guardians, about how they can reconnect him with his parents who have been in the stars, sent, who went home to the stars long before. And what they say, they essentially talk about that concept of the, which is very embodied in the Egyptian Book of the Dead and that sort of those cultural mythologies, religious, spiritual mythologies of how you, in order to leave this realm, you have to keep your heart as light as a feather.
Mm.
And as I was watching that, I saw a bunch of, I don't know, cosmic guardians of my own. And they said to me,
And you
no
were
matter
5?
what, I was 5. They said to me, no matter what happens to you in this life, you have to, that is what you are here to do. And you are here to help other people do that too. And I was like,
Okay.
okay, like, okay.
Hopefully I'm gonna have
Anyway,
some help to figure out.
hopefully other people will wake up at some point and I won't be just out here fucking around on my own.
Yeah.
Wake up. So fast forward
Uh,
to adulthood after a life of wild metaphysical experiences. And I ended up with chronic with previously disabling chronic nerve pain. And I had learned how to do, I went through Reiki 1 and 2. And when I was in my Reiki 1 training, or sorry, my Reiki 2 training, when I was in my Reiki 2 training, where you learn how to share it with other people, the person I was paired up with who had signed up for the class because he had had really good experiences with Reiki said, we did our first partner exchange and he said, I don't know what you just did. That is the most powerful thing I have ever experienced. That is not Reiki. And things like that would just cut like, so there was this way where even though I was like learning how to do Reiki, I also knew that I was doing something that was really different than what
the template
like
was.
the template was, right? And as I started sharing energy healing with people over the years, like about a year or 2 after that, a friend's mom who had been having some really bad knee pain, who was like visiting us. It was one of my roommates. And I said, can I give you a little bit of like energy healing? And she was someone who was very like open and curious. She had had a lot of Reiki over the years. She was very into like the metaphysical experience. She was like, yes, sure, please. So I start doing, energy healing on her knee. And she looked at me and she said, I don't know what you just did, but that was not Reiki. She was like, the pain in my knee is gone. I have never experienced anything like that. And I was like these things would just happen over and over and over again. And I don't say that to brag. I say that because I was always very, right, like in a lot of ways, like real one speed, single-minded, like this is what I am here to fucking figure this out. So
Yeah.
like, I'm glad it's working. And
Mhm.
I worked on myself. I worked on myself for decades. I went through agonizing, incredible experiences with like nerve pain and some other like chronic health issues. And I just stuck with it. I helped other people through barter and trade for decades, long before I officially started my practice, because I'm also someone who I care about data and results. And it was really important to me to glean as much as I possibly could about what I was doing and really fine tuning my processes before I took it on the road. I woke up one day in 2020, I think it was March 13th of 2020. I literally sat up in my bed and I was like, the wind has changed and it is time for me to start this, more formally. I could literally feel that and we know we were all here in 2020. The world had changed and it was really different. And it was time for me to start sharing these processes. So to me, what future medicine is really about is it's about having created a truly multidimensional approach that works within for you and anyone who I'm working with, um, to retune, to clear all of the interference from people's field that disconnects them from what I perceive to be our innate ability to heal and create. It's not always perfect. Sometimes the miracles flow in very fast. Like, and I've seen incredible things happen. Like, I have a client who wrote me a testimonial about this, but an example of, something happening, in my opinion, within like, I think it was about a month. I did a session with a client a couple of years ago whose baby was breech, and she knew that she needed to book a session with me to work on this, and so that she could have, hopefully, as like gentle a birth as possible. We did a session at the end of, I think it was the end of November in 2024, and by her next scan, which was like near the end of the year, so about a month out, he had turned. Wow. And during the session, I did a whole very me, that I'm like I often sort of liken what I am seeing, it's like seeing like and hearing like 10,000 like songs at one time, and then trying to essentially like synthesize the important parts and then like go through, because there's so much we have, there's so much, that bag of rocks is, there's a lot going on. And so I like went in, I talked to him, I did all kinds of things in her field energetically, I gave her homework. Very me to be like, I'm giving you homework. So I gave her homework. She did her homework. And by her next scan, he had shifted. Wow. And I just, to me, like, there's absolutely a place for allopathic medicine. In the case of an emergency, you want that. You want to be able to get like, but in terms of like, there's a lot of room from my perspective to be able to remember things about ourselves and really work with our own bodies, our own hearts, to like shift the vision. And it's not just about health. Like I have supported entrepreneurs. I've helped people make like money and shift their interpersonal relationships and call in like dream homes and massive, cool new jobs and new opportunities. And it's just amazing to see how, to your point, how flexible this modality is to me. And that was really my goal, was to create a modality that would support anyone potentially in any season or phase of their life, and to really help to essentially retune anyone receiving from me back to that energy of miracles. Because I think that's our truth. I think that's like and I think that's why we're so interfered with, is because we are walking miracles, and this false system knows it. And I basically created an antidote to that. And so it's so much fun to be able to like work with people and help people apply it right in your class. You of course were no stranger to healing, but we had someone else who was a breathwork and energy healer practitioner, but we had someone who did, design work, who wasn't someone who you would necessarily ever envision to be like, have their, sort of secret weapon be that they were engaged in this level of self-mastery. There was another person in your round who also was doing like marketing and PR. And like by the end of it, she was like, my life has shifted so incredibly as a result of this. So to me, that flexibility was really important. I think there are I want to be able to guide anyone who is interested, no matter where they fall, in the human experience, the journey, into this level of self-mastery, because it changes not just you, but it changes your family, your genetic line. It creates ripples. And I also have a really big passion, which, because I taught you guys how to do techniques that I've used for a long time to help heal the land, restore the we can think of it as like the Christ grid, the, energetic truth, right? The ley lines, the energy of like who love that exists in this realm, how to work with, work from like a stewardship perspective, because to me, that's also really important.
It's really that it kind of emphasizes the fact that like at this point, no matter who you talk to, healing is not really optional anymore, right?
Yeah.
So it's the leaders, the entrepreneurs, like you said, in all kinds of different fields, and highly sensitive people in general that are starting to realize like it's not a like, maybe I will or maybe I won't. It's like the importance of like now's the time. Like there's a sense of urgency to it now that previously didn't exist, I think.
Yeah, I think we're really at a point where, like, to continue, I think the people who choose to abdicate
Mhm.
their capacity and their power are going, and I don't wish this on anyone because, like, we all have the option to choose better and differently. But I think that for a lot of people, that feeling of urgency is very present.
Mhm.
Right? Like it is very evident that it is the time. There's no more time to be like fucking around. Like you,
Yeah.
there's no like, oh,
Maybe I will, maybe I won't.
yeah, maybe I'll do this in like 5 years. Like I was talking a couple months ago a lot about how like it's time to do like your bucket list, right? That's not to be like a like fear monger, but like the world is changing very quickly, very fast. We don't know. I mean, even looking back on how different it is from 5 years ago, from 10 years ago, from 20 years ago, right? So what
two
is it going to look
years.
like
2 years
five,
since I
two
did
years,
future
right?
medicine.
What is it going to look like 5 years out, 10 years out? And are you doing the things? I think that like sense of urgency, right? If you are someone who's an entrepreneur, a visionary leader, someone who is here to really help create something different in whatever field you contribute and work, then I think it is non-negotiable because the energetic component, the spiritual intelligence to me is the vanguard.
Mhm.
It's also the truth. It's both the vanguard and it's the truth. And I think in order to be the best leader that you can possibly be, to create the most incredible experience for yourself, for your clients, for your family, for your community, it is non-negotiable to engage in self-mastery at this point.
Yes, I love that word. And the other word that really jumped out, the term of spiritual intelligence. And so people have probably heard of emotional intelligence. They might have heard of traditional traditional intelligence, which, these days might be in rather short supply among, among some. But how do you see spiritual intelligence? Because that is a big part of future medicine. And I make sure that I always incorporate that when I'm doing activations and meditations.
I feel like our spiritual intelligence is truly that wisdom, the ancient sacred truth that we all possess, which is essentially our connection to true creator, to the divine. I think there's a lot of noise in this realm about God and religion. A lot of it just feels like absolute stone cold garbage to me. I'm like, I both believe in God and also hard pass to whatever that thing is you're talking about God, which is like a real no. Like like I feel like a lot of the god of this realm is like an insane warmonger.
Vindictive.
Like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no, no. Who's like very interested, according to a lot of people who talk about God in quotes, in oppressing people and judging people and creating these really anyway, that's not but to me, there is actually sort of beyond that, right? An energy of true creation, something that is beyond this realm, that is bigger than all of us, that is like a true energy of restoration, of cosmic justice, of miracles. And that to me is like what I perceive to be God. Um, and that is essentially how that is where our spiritual intelligence comes from, right? And so to me, spiritual intelligence is kind of like a very broad term for a lot of different things. It's your psychic gifts, it's your connection to your intuition, it's the way that you uniquely see and engage with the world, the way that you were here to steward, to care, to reseed a sense of hope and justice and possibility into, the community and the people that you're here to serve. And our spiritual intelligence is really, it I used that term earlier, the whispers of the heart.
Mhm.
Right. To me, it's those whispers of the heart. It's that ancient truth that lies far beyond anything that most of us, believe to or understand or are told is possible. And it is the most powerful thing I have seen I have always been guided very deeply by my own spiritual intelligence, and I have experienced more miracles in my life
Mhm.
than I can even articulate. I have seen the people that I work with call forth profound miracles. And so that energy of really like finding a way to engage with, to work with, to expand upon, to remember our spiritual intelligence is so important right now because it's essentially it is those tangible things I said, the psychic acumen, the intuition, the capacity, to engage with our body, to heal, to call miracles to action. And it's also very deeply, from my perspective, related to the energy of curiosity, of
Mhm.
openness, of being able to really hold multiple perspectives, right? That's like one of the sort of, I would say, big mind fucks of what is happening right now is in order to be able to stay present
Mhm.
and really like engage with those around us certainly requires a level of being able to hold multiple perspectives, like say that's somehow both right and wrong at the same
Mhm.
time, which
Yeah.
doesn't make sense from a logical perspective. But
Mhm.
the more you fine tune that energy of cultivating your spiritual intelligence, it starts to give you a level of expansive thinking and action that is really different. So to me, it's a non-negotiable to really engage in the spiritual intelligence. And I think it is heavily related to emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
And I think that it also really helps to create very practical ways of recoding this realm, as it were, into something that really works within for us. I think it's the most I think it's the most important form of intelligence that exists. So
Can we get a hallelujah?
woo woo.
I think I've mentioned this before. Like, one of the things that really struck me when I first came across you on the net was how authentic you are. And I remember it was either the first class or maybe the second class. And I remember just bawling my eyes out because I was like, if this weird, wacky, off the chain lady can just be her normal, like, this is you in your day to day. Like, there's no performance, there's no like, couching and hiding and like curating this perfect image. And I feel like people are really longing for that. And, in some ways we were becoming a little bit more vulnerable about our struggles, our trauma, the things that we've experienced, the things that we've overcome. But, how do you kind of, I don't know, perceive this like, I guess, desire for authenticity when, so much of what we see online is like this perfectly curated performance identity. People are often trying to be something that they're not. And here you are just like letting your freak flag fly.
I no, I God, there's so much to say about this, but I think that if there's one thing that I can do for the good people of this realm, it is to help people realize that like all of the noise about who we are and who we need to be and what we need to look like and what we the the oh you need to have reached this mile marker and do this and live this way and say these da, 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 da. And it's like literally just noise to distract us from the incredible expansive creative power that lies in our hearts. Like we have the capacity, we're all walking miracles. And the Matrix heavily benefits on creating so much noise, making us feel worthless, making us feel like we're stupid and ugly and weird and like so peculiar and blah, blah, and all of this noise to essentially like make you feel so uncomfortable in your body, in your self expression, that you completely stifle who you really are. And
Mhm.
okay, this is so funny to me. I love sharing this because it feels like for a lot of people, it's like this like big light bulb moment. I was called a weirdo from the time I was very small. I was also very charismatic, very likable. So I was like living sort of two truths. I was very popular and I had a lot of friends, and everyone thought I was a fucking absolute weirdo. I was called weirdo so much, the weirdest person most people had ever met, from such a young age that at some point in my like teens or late like early 20s, I did some research about the etymology of the word weird. The word weird translates in Old German to mean destiny.
Mm,
Just
mm,
fascinating. Isn't that fascinating to me, right? And I imagine that you would sort of relate to this in a similar way. To me, destiny is our truth,
mhm,
is who we are beyond the confines of what
mm,
we're told is possible in this realm. It is our spiritual intelligence. It is our heart. It is our unique sacred song and lens of perception. Each of us has a very unique way. We all have spiritual gifts. We all have psychic gifts. We all have creativity. We all have some way that we are really able to make a massive contribution to the reseeding of justice in this realm. And it's unique to each of us. The way that we, present physically, our sense of style, our sense of humor, our sense of, like I have certainly gotten more comfortable as I've gotten older in being fully who I am, but I was never someone who could pass as a non-weirdo. Like that was not there were a lot of ways where that was not possible. And I was like, well, like this is what I'm doing.
that's
Like
who I
I
am.
am super nerdy and I also fucking love fashion. I love makeup. There are like all of these parts of me that don't necessarily make sense on paper as what is possible. I have like a deep love for ornamentation and beauty, and I am also profoundly spiritual. I've always had a very deep relationship, right, to God. I used to, when I was little, I used to think of like I remember learning about the concept of prayer as a child, because I was also very anti-church from the beginning, and I was like, I do not want to go to church. I hate church.
Mhm.
And I was being, someone was explaining to me why it was important for me to go, and I was like, what? Like, I'm always doing that. I'm always talking to God. I don't need some guy in a dress, no less, which I'm not knocking men wearing dresses if they want to wear dresses, but like, I don't need whoever that guy is. I'm already doing that. What are the rest of you fucking doing? Like,
Wake
I
up.
always wake up, right? Like, I love music, I love art, I love animals, I love being in the natural world. Like, there are all of these ways that I do that I am who I am. I do not do a particularly good job, right? I was never that great at like shifting who I was to fit into a mold.
Mhm.
Um, I was often both beloved at jobs that I had, and there were, I also often had a lot of detractors, because of that energy of just
Made
like, who is
it.
this person and like, what is she doing?
When
Like,
you got
what?
haters, you know you've made it. I had someone call me, he called me the Timu Mrs. Cleo recently. Right? Right? I was like, I don't know if
Thank
I
you,
should laugh or
sir.
cry.
I really, you know what? Um, that is
Oh,
really funny. And isn't it interesting too to think about like how triggered, right? How triggered people get that someone would even waste time to like carve
good.
that hot burn against you. And
Yeah.
it's like, sir, please go and connect to something. Go like literally go
Go
sit in
touch
a park and
grass.
listen to the birds. Go like,
Touch
yeah,
grass,
like
buddy.
just it's wild to me the way that we are. It's that energy of like trying to be, what is that, a square peg in a round hole. Like we're
Yes.
all told to
Mhm.
shift who we are to make other people more comfortable, to meet, to fit with society. And I really believe that the reason all that noise exists is because when we suppress who we are,
Mhm.
when we allow our truth, whatever that looks like, and it doesn't mean that you need to be like trying to like cultivate an energy of like weirdness just for the sake of of being weird, right? Like that's
It
not, it's
comes
like figuring
naturally.
out what it just comes naturally to me. But like really figuring out what you're about, right? Like what you're interested in, what you love to do for yourself and the world, and like being able to just be comfortable with that. And I think also as part of that energy of like anchoring into weirdness, you sort of organically you have more fun. Your life is more magical. You become like really magnetic to the people who are meant to be in your world in a way that when you are trying to suppress who you are, make yourself, especially we've seen this so much, especially in the past couple of years with entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
There was, I think, a window of time, especially in 2020, where there was like the big boom in like coaching and the spiritual realm. There were a lot of people who sounded really good on paper. They had flashy marketing, slick, like, oh, I hold the answers and look at my life and it's so like perfect. And I'm like, I've never been that person. Like, you're going to hear me talk about how miracles are fucking real all day long. And life is messy.
Mhm.
Perfection is not, I don't think, possible in this realm, given the current circumstances that we are up against with the amount of interference from the false matrix. Can we change that? Absolutely. But these people who, were sort of blowing smoke at other people and like creating this like image of like perfection, it turns out that a lot of them were literally full of baloney,
Yeah.
right? They were like
Yeah.
literally they were lying behind, like lying to create an image of perfection to sell
Mhm.
some product, some healing product, some coaching product. And it really, especially in like, I feel like in 2023 and 2024, the people who were blowing smoke and mirrors at other people, it started to really blow up in their faces
Mhm.
because people started to realize like, oh, this sounded so good. And
Mhm.
I bought this
I wanted
program
that
from
too,
someone.
right? I wanted
Yeah,
that too. I'm buying into the fact that this is
I'm,
possible for me because it's possible for you.
Yeah. And I'm going to essentially write like sound like marketing a lifestyle, which it turns out wasn't even something that they were experiencing, but they were like using it as a marketing tool.
Mhm.
And it really, and I think people have really like wisened up to that, right? Like the real deal to me, and the thing that you really need to be doing at this point is not getting dazzled by slick, perfect marketing, a
Daddled.
slick, perfect story,
Getting
right?
titilled,
Like,
titillated by.
like, right? Getting like sort of hooked into like a false sense of possibility. But it's to really figure out like, how has someone, to me, when I look at like who I would want to mentor and guide me, I would want someone who was honest, who was truly themselves,
Walking the.
right? Like walking the talk, like had found a way to be able, like I am not particularly good at marketing. I am verbose. I am both verbose and the things I'm talking about are so complicated and truly multidimensional that I don't always find the right words,
Mhm.
right? Like the way that people find me, the way that and I have essentially succeeded through magic in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, right? Like through the energy of
Energy.
miracles because people find me and they're like I don't know even necessarily like what that person was just saying, but I cannot shake the fact that in my heart I know that I need that,
Mhm.
right? Like I have had so many people, like most people who find me either find me through referrals or through interviews where people hear me interviewed on podcasts and they're like, I just knew that I had to book a
Something.
session with you or I needed you. I mean, my God, like you our connection was so like profound and sort of beyond like this realm because you had seen me online and you signed up for my certification program. We had never even talked. And I saw your
I didn't need.
registration come.
Yeah.
You didn't need it, right? Because you're so in tune with these
I
things that
move
like
at
it
that
was like
speed. Yeah.
absolutely Yeah, and you just know, and you trust yourself. You've done so much, right? Where you know when something is something, it may not make sense on paper, but like it makes sense in terms of like the trajectory of your life and you creating a beautiful, relationship to the people that you work with and your community and your family, yourself, right? And it was so funny because like I saw your registration come through and I like went
Website.
to your website and your Instagram and I was like, I love her. Like I was so excited because
I love it.
I called you from your
Authentic.
yeah, you're authentic. I called you, and I still call you this, a voice for the plant community.
Mhm.
You understand the wisdom of the flower realm. And I know, you integrate a lot of like vibrational work, and you also work with like actual flower essences. And these are things that to me, this is the wisdom that we need. This is the wisdom that we need to reconnect to because all of the noise about what success looks like is fucking garbage.
Mhm.
And the real power move is to start to work with your energy in a way that really moves in a truly multidimensional way. And to me, to be reconnecting to the flowers and the plants and the land on which we live is such a massive part of why we're all here. I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to deny that, there are certain ways where like success on paper can be really helpful, right? It can like give you a certain amount of capital. It can give you connections. And it can also, you can do some really incredible things within, I would argue, any system, because every system needs a total phoenixing and reconfiguration. So if you are someone who is spiritually adept and has cultivated that self-mastery and that intelligence, and you are in, a more traditional field, like that is a power move from my perspective. But I also think that in order to really at this point succeed in terms of where we're headed, what I see being true success, to restore our capacity to hear
Guidance.
the to hear the guidance of the heart and the truth from the the land, from the elements, from the plants, from the animals, from the trees, to be able to integrate all of that. To me, it's going to guide us through some, I don't think things are getting less crazy down here. I think things are probably just going to get weirder, right?
Yes.
And if you can hear the guidance of your heart and true creator, it can really help to carry you through very complicated times. And as we discussed at the beginning, most people are having a complicated time right now. Like there are few people who are not having a lot of stuff that requires a lot from
Mhm.
them.
And they're
And
either
to
gonna like deal with it and clear it now, or I mean, it's just gonna keep
it's
coming back.
just gonna it's and I think it's just gonna get like more aggressive, right? Like what can be a knock on the door,
Yes.
can go from being a knock on the door to two hands on the door, and if you continue to ignore it, it becomes like
Battery.
like a battering ram, right? Like handle your scandal now
Yes.
while it is,
Yes.
some knocks versus the battering ram. Because to me, I don't think that any of us are going to be able to leave this lifetime without having engaged in a level of self-reflection and healing.
Mhm. Yes.
And so to start today, whatever day you're listening,
Yeah.
whether it's
Yeah.
the day this goes live, whether it's, that's the beauty, right? This is like an evergreen format.
Yeah.
You hear us in 3 years or 5 years, like it's the day, right? Today is that day.
Mhm.
Whatever day you're listening to us, whatever day you find us.
I love that. I have one final question, and then you so generously agreed to give our listeners a taste of future medicine. But I want to ask this one question. So, what is one belief about healing, spirituality, or human potential that you think society is going to look back on 50 years from now and laugh at how we addressed our personal health and well-being?
I think the fact, and you know this from your own experience, I know this from my own experience, I know this from having helped hundreds of people around the world traverse profound things. Um, there is a spiritual root to
Mm-hmm.
anything you are struggling with,
Mm-hmm.
whether it is a physical wellness journey, a reclamation of, your, a stronger relationship to your body, whether it is interpersonal issues, whether it is professional issues, whatever, from my perspective. And this is also why future medicine is so flexible and so powerful, is because to me, whatever you're struggling with, there is a spiritual root to that. And it's not to say that you might not also need, right, other forms of guidance,
Mm-hmm.
other things to help you to get there from like a
Nutrition
practical
and
standpoint. Yep.
sunshine and all the
Nutrition
stuff.
and
Yeah.
sunshine and all the things and practical action and,
Yeah.
like help from various different, you may need like some
Drugs.
allopathic medicine. You may need, like, there are all kinds of different things that you might need as part of the journey of full integration. But there is a spiritual root to every issue that I have ever heard someone explain.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you, and that's like one of the reasons, right, why I think I'm so good at this, is I can see what those issues are, and then I can help to clear those energies from people's field. And that's really what, and then use future medicine to help to restore that connection to the ultimate truth, right? Which is that you, me, everyone listening, all of us, we are walking miracles. And in the blink of an eye, all of this noise, all of this chaos, all of this misinformation can literally, like, in the blink of an eye, it could completely shift back into something very beautiful, very different, where every heart and hand is really, loved and taken care of. And because all of this suffering is completely unnecessary.
And
And
people
it's,
will see what it means to truly be a creator of your own life because you will be
yeah,
having those experiences that will leave no doubt in your mind that it's
yeah,
like I I was either able to clear this from my field or I'm going to hold on to this till my next life. I'm going to carry this with me or I'm just going to be done with it. I'm going to say enough's
yeah,
enough and I'm able to
yeah,
walk forward with confidence and strength and
yeah,
grace and
exactly. Yep.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
So, I
So on that note, yeah, so this is, so if you love this, and you want more, you can book a session with me. I'm gonna just say these things now before I
yes.
try to go, because I too get a little, future medicine is really big energy, and this is gonna be like, a tiny taste, but sometimes I can get lost in my own sauce. So if you love this and you're like, I want more of this, you can book a session with me. I have a certification program, some various different group programs, but find me, wearehere to remember.com. And
And future
and
medicine certification is happening again this
yeah,
year, this
it's
summer.
happening again this year. It starts in July. I can't wait. It's so amazing. And you can also, for those of you who are in my audience who are finding Ashley through me, you can connect with Ashley through We Are Here to Remember. I have a section that has the practitioners, and you can connect with Ashley
I love it. I see what
through
you
that
did
very
there.
easily. So
I see
I'm
what you
all
did
about
there.
mutual. I
Yes.
want everyone of good heart and mind to
Yes.
be, succeeding, because we're the people who are really here to guide other people. And I want, as many people to find both of us as possible, because
And do
people's
it with
lives change.
integrity, right? As you
Yeah.
said, doing it
Yes.
with integrity and
Yep.
authenticity, which feels like it's
Truth.
in short supply
Yep.
sometimes with what
It's
you see.
wildly short supply. And I said this as we lean into this, I said at the beginning of this year in particular, like, this is a really intense moment of time through which we move, because it is very much like, don't meet your heroes, right?
Mhm.
Like, a lot of the people who created a big name for themselves, especially in the healing space, turns out they were full of noise and nonsense. And this process is really meant to just help you remember who you are in the most beautiful way possible. So I'm going to do just like a 2 or 3 minute, maybe five. Time is not my gift, guys. Um, Walk into future medicine, and this is to help activate your vision for yourself and what you would love to like create or manifest in your own life, and really also to hold a very powerful vision for the entire collective, for each of us, for your families, your communities, you, me, the plants, the animals, the elements, the land, the earth herself, like, and rippling through all life everywhere, because this energy, so this is future medicine to restore cosmic justice and miracles for each heart and hand. So take take a deep breath. If you are driving, do not close your eyes. But if you are not driving, then you can close your eyes. Everything I do is very heart centered. I think the heart is the ultimate key. And I have always felt very strongly. So as you're breathing in, connect with your heart, connect with your beautiful body. Whatever you're facing, whatever you're going through, your body has always risen to meet you. And feeling that energy, that just love for yourself. And as you're connecting in with your heart, you can visualize a golden light pouring in through every breath, moving into your heart, connecting with the heart of the earth, with all the elements, with the earth, with the wind, with the water, with the sacred fire, connecting to true creator, with your highest self-expression, the part of you that resides outside this realm. And as you're breathing in, feeling that energy of future medicine, which is you, it's your truth, it's your fire, it's your passion, it's your beauty, it's your light, it's your laughter, it's your sacred song. And feeling that coming more online, activating in a way that is powerful and profound, and helping you to tune more bravely into the truth of who you are, so that as you move through this moment, tomorrow, and all moments going forward, that you are moving from this place of authenticity, of creativity, of true remembrance of what a miracle you are, and holding that vision as well on every breath for a world, a planet, a realm that is retuned to the energy of cosmic justice, of stewardship, every heart and hand, our human family, our animal family, the plants, the water, the earth, are liberated, are sovereign, and are moving in that frequency of miracles today and every day, in this and all now moments. This is our world, and it is a world of joy, of beauty, of justice, of truth, creativity, and miracles. Whenever you're ready, you can start to come back into your body. You can connect again with your heart, with the elements, with true creator. Start to move your hands and your feet. You can open your eyes, knowing that you get to feel that energy of love anytime. And it would truly be my honor to guide you even deeper into that level of restoration and remembrance. Like, I am
Mhm.
once again moved to tears. I the other thing that I love so much about having done that, and thank you for asking me to do that. I used to do that a lot on podcasts, and then anyway, I haven't done it in a long while, and it's so much fun to do it because I also think that the more we can come together, right? What any time doesn't work in the way that we think that it does. So whenever people find this and are listening to it, all of us, with their hearts and minds holding that vision, it
Yes.
amplifies what's possible,
Mhm.
right? Like it strengthens our individual capacity to manifest something beautiful for ourselves. And it also really helps to accelerate and amplify the speed at which we shift out of all of this false noise and nonsense into something that is ancient and sacred and true.
That group field is so powerful, right? As people are tuning into that and they're really feeling into that energy and they can just see and sense as they are, it, as you said, it doesn't matter if they watch this today, tomorrow, 3 weeks from now, 5 years from now, the energy of that practice and that energy of holding the collective vision of what's possible for us, both individually and communally is, I mean, it will be even greater than it has ever been, really, to hold on to that energy. And
I love this.
I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for being such a bright light. I love you so much. I appreciate this. I appreciate everyone listening, right? Like you guys, we are to be in this place,
Mhm.
to meet yourself in this place of possibility and healing and remembrance. Like it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of bravery, and I don't never take that lightly. So thank you all so much for your vision and your love and your time. And I can't wait to see who finds me as a result of
Yeah, and your
it.
resilience, because we don't have a choice. We got to keep going on, keep healing, keep clearing.
And we might as well make it as good as possible,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
So,
Think of it as a
yeah,
miracle, not as a challenge, right? I,
that's exactly.
I love that. And I will
Um,
put all the show notes for people to
okay.
easily find you, clickable, go here, go there, and definitely connect with Andrea and
Perfect.
the multi-dimensional gifts that she has to share with you.
Thank you.